Fatigue pulled at Lieutenant Mara Kincaid's eyelids as she stared at the endlessly scrolling data feeds. 12 hours into her shift at Outpost Omega, the deep space monitoring station orbiting Charon, she had fallen into the hypnotic rhythm that characterized most days here, scanning, logging, and forgetting. The same meaningless cosmic background radiation, the same routine solar wind patterns, the same silence that had greeted humanity's centuries of one-way broadcasts into the void. Mara stretched her arms overhead, feeling her spine crack pleasantly. Outpost Omega was humanity's farthest permanent listening post, a testament to both technological achievement and stubborn hope. 300 years of broadcasting mathematics music and greetings into space, and not a single verified response. Philosophical debates about the Fermi paradox continued back on Earth, but out here, the silence felt personal. 4 more hours, she muttered, taking another sip of synthetic coffee. The bitter tang made her wince. The station's recyclers couldn't produce anything resembling the real thing, but the caffeine worked just as well. Her partner, Lieutenant Jonas Shu, dozed in the adjacent chair. Jonas was technically on duty too, but the unspoken agreement between Xenocom's officers was that on quiet shifts, which was every shift one could sleep while the other watched. No supervisor had ever complained. They all understood the mind-numbing reality of deep space monitoring. Mara's gaze drifted to the small digital frame on her console. It displayed a rotating series of Earth landscapes, places she wouldn't see again for another 11 months, when her deployment ended. The current image showed the rebuilt skyline of New Geneva, gleaming headquarters of Earth's unified government formed after the Deathworld Wars. Deathworlders. The term had started as a scientific designation. Humans evolved on a high-gravity planet, with extreme seasonal variations, dangerous predators, and constant environmental pressures. But after the wars, after humanity nearly destroyed itself before turning its destructive genius outward to the stars, Deathworlder had become something between a badge of honor and a shameful reminder. Humans were survivors adaptable to almost any environment, but at what cost? A faint, rhythmic blip from her console interrupted Mara's thoughts. At first, she dismissed it as another system diagnostic, but the pattern caught her attention. 4 short pulses, 2 long, 4 short again. Then silence before the sequence repeated. Mathematical precision, deliberate spacing. Her heart rate accelerated. "Jonas," she called, not taking her eyes off the readout. "Jonas, wake up." Her partner stirred, blinking rapidly. "What, did I miss something?" "Look at monitor 3. Tell me what you see." Jonas straightened in his chair, instantly alert, as he peered at the display. The signal continued its steady rhythm. 4 short, 2 long, 4 short. Pause. Repeat. "Is that—" He didn't finish the sentence, afraid to jinx it. Mara's fingers flew across her console, narrowing the reception band, isolating the signal from background noise. "It's repeating exactly. No variance in the intervals." She pulled up the directional finder. "Coming from Sector 87 Alpha 45, about 30 light-years from Sol." Jonas was now fully awake, his own hands moving rapidly across his station. Initializing deep scan, running it through pattern recognition. The 2 officers worked in practice tandem, performing the procedures they had drilled countless times, but never expected to use. Mara felt a tingling sensation creeping up her spine. This wasn't random stellar noise or equipment malfunction. This was intentional. "Confirmed artificial origin," Jonas announced, voice tight, with barely contained excitement. 99.8% probability. Mara swallowed hard. "Are we really the first team to detect this?" "Signal strength suggests it's recent. Very recent." Jonas pulled up the communication logs. Nothing in the archives matching this pattern or origin point. Mara's hand hovered over the emergency communication link to Earth Command, a dedicated quantum entangled channel reserved for the most urgent situations. In 3 centuries of deep space monitoring, it had never been used for its intended purpose. "We should verify again," Jonas said, caution tempering his excitement. Run the full-spectrum analysis. 4 short, 2 long, 4 short, Mara interrupted. Jonas, that's SOS in Old Earth Morse code. Their eyes met across the dimly lit control room. Someone out there knows about us, Mara whispered, and they're calling for help. She pressed the emergency comm link. Earth needed to know, now. 18 hours later, Admiral Raj Singh stood before the curved window of his office in New Geneva, watching as spring rain pelted the glass. Storms always seemed to coincide with his most difficult decisions. Behind him, the quantum comm unit still displayed the decoded message. The message that had interrupted his first real sleep in weeks. The message that would change humanity's place in the cosmos forever. SOS genocide in progress. A simple header, followed by compressed data packets containing coordinates, technical specifications, mathematical proofs to establish a common language framework, and desperately detailed accounts of a civilization under siege. The sender called themselves the Zaylis, and they were dying. Admiral Singh turned from the window to face the 5 senior officers who had assembled in his office. Each face reflected the same mixture of shock, disbelief, and grim determination that he felt himself. Dr. Moreau's xenolinguistics team confirms the translation accuracy, he said, breaking the heavy silence. The signal originated from a G-type star system, designated HD 85512. The Zaylis are a spacefaring species being systematically exterminated by another race they call the Qatari. And they're specifically calling for Earth's help, asked Vice Admiral Chen, his weathered face skeptical. How would they even know about us? Singh gestured to the data scrolling across the display. They've been monitoring our broadcasts for decades. They know we're from a high-gravity world, a death world, in their terminology. They know about our military capabilities from our own historical documentaries and news transmissions. They're desperate enough to call the most violent species they could find, muttered General Oscar Volkov, commander of the Marine Expeditionary Forces. Not exactly a flattering assessment. No, Singh agreed, but an accurate one. He tapped the display, bringing up a 3-dimensional rendering of what appeared to be a massive fleet of angular crystalline vessels. According to the Zaylis, the Qatari are a species evolved from a low-gravity moon, physically fragile but technologically advanced. They've been surrounding the Zaylis' homeworld for the past 6 local months, bombarding surface installations and preventing evacuation. Why? Asked Vice Admiral Kamala Nwosu, head of strategic operations. Resources territory. According to the message, the Qatari consider all other sentient life to be pollution in the galaxy, Singh replied. Ideological extermination. Silence fell again as the implications sank in. The United Nations Galactic Council is assembling as we speak, Singh continued. This will be their first real test since formation. The question is simple. Do we intervene in a conflict between alien civilizations 30 light-years away? The Prime Directive advocates caution, said Captain Eleanor Yu, referencing the non-intervention policy that had guided Earth's theoretical first contact protocols for generations. We know nothing about these species beyond what one side has told us. With respect, Captain General Volkov countered, there is no Prime Directive. That's from ancient fiction. Our actual protocols demand we prevent genocide when we have the capability. And do we have that capability? Admiral Nwosu asked, turning to Singh. 30 light-years is at the edge of our Hawking Drive's tested range. Singh nodded toward the final figure in the room, a thin, nervous man who had remained silent until now. Dr. Suresh Glaz believes we can make it in 3 jumps. Dr. Glaz cleared his throat. The new H5 drives can handle it, though. There will be significant stress on both the equipment and personnel. I'd recommend no more than 3 consecutive jumps before a full maintenance cycle. If we decide to go, Captain Yu reminded them, we'd be committing Earth's primary defense force to an interstellar rescue mission based on a message we received yesterday. The political fallout will be managed, Singh interrupted firmly. Our focus now is military feasibility and moral imperative. Can we reach them in time, and should we The quantum comm chimed, signaling an incoming transmission from the UN Galactic Council chamber. All eyes turned to the display as it resolved into the face of Secretary-General Amara Okafor. "Admiral Singh," she said without preamble, "the Council has voted, 8-7 in favor of intervention." Singh felt his chest tighten. One vote. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence, its first interstellar military operation, approved by a single vote. "The resolution authorizes immediate deployment of Fleet Doom," Okafor continued. "You are ordered to proceed to the coordinates provided by the Zales and take all necessary actions to prevent their extinction." Fleet Doom. The informal name had stuck, despite repeated attempts to rebrand it with something less ominous. 30 warships, 20 carriers, 1 dreadnought, and 18,000 Marines Earth's shock force built, after the Deathworld Wars, as a deterrent against any future civil conflict. Never used in combat. Until now. "Understood, Madam Secretary." Singh replied, his voice steady despite the hurricane of emotions beneath. "We'll depart within 24 hours. After the transmission ended, Singh turned back to his officers. "You heard the Council. Prepare for immediate deployment, full combat loadout. We jump in 24 hours. As they filed out to execute his orders, Admiral Singh returned to the window. The storm had intensified, sheets of rain now obscuring the city. Somewhere out there, 30 light-years away, another civilization was looking to the stars, praying for Earth's warships to appear. "God help us all," he whispered. "The Deathworlders are coming." Lieutenant Mara Kincaid stared in disbelief at her new orders. After sending the alien SOS to Earth Command, she had expected commendation, perhaps even promotion. Instead, she was being reassigned to Fleet Doom itself as a xeno-communications specialist aboard the flagship dreadnought Leviathan. "This can't be right," she said to Jonas as they packed their quarters at Outpost Omega. "I'm a monitoring officer, not a combat communicator." Jonas looked equally stunned by his own orders. "They're tapping everyone with xenocom experience. Makes sense nobody's trained for actual alien communication because nobody thought it would happen. But Fleet Doom. They're sending warships." Mara's hands trembled slightly as she sealed her personal effects into a standard issue duffel. "We should be sending diplomat scientists, not our entire military reserve." Jonas's expression darkened. "Did you read the full decoded message? The Zales are being wiped out?" "Genocide, Mara. Maybe they need warships more than they need diplomats right now." Mara fell silent. She had read the message, the desperate plea from a species facing extinction. But the idea of humanity's first venture into interstellar space, being a military one, filled her with unease. What if this was a trap? What if they misunderstood the message? What if humans only made things worse? When their shuttle docked with the Leviathan, 16 hours later, those doubts dissolved in the face of overwhelming activity. The massive dreadnought hummed with purpose, every corridor filled with personnel, moving with focused intensity. Marines in powered armor conducted combat drills in the vast hangars. Engineers swarmed over the newly installed Hawking drives, making final adjustments to the experimental engines that would compress space-time itself to propel the fleet across light years. Admiral Singh's voice echoed through the ship-wide comms during their first briefing in the Leviathan's central command deck. Hundreds of officers stood at attention as his weathered face appeared on the main view screen. "In 12 hours, we make our first jump," he announced. "I won't lie to you, this mission involves unprecedented risks. The Hawking drives have never been used for consecutive jumps of this distance. We have no direct experience with either the Zales or their aggressors. We are operating on limited intelligence and with minimal time for preparation." His gaze seemed to find each person individually. "But we go because we must. Because when a civilization faces extinction and calls for help, turning away is not an option humanity can live with. We go because if our positions were reversed, we would want someone to answer our call." The briefing continued with tactical officers outlining combat scenarios, diplomatic personnel reviewing first contact protocols, and engineers, explaining the effects of Hawking drive travel on both ships and human physiology. Mara absorbed it all with growing trepidation. They were about to make history, or die trying. As the fleet prepared for departure, Mara found herself assigned to the bridge's communication station. Her role would be to maintain contact with the other ships during transit and to assist with any further Zali's communications that might be received. She reported to her post 4 hours early, studying the customized console with its newly implemented xenolinguistic matrix. "Couldn't sleep either," a voice asked. Mara turned to find Jonas approaching her station. "They assigned you to bridge duty too." He nodded. "Secondary comm officer. Apparently hearing the alien signal first got us special treatment." His attempt at a smile didn't reach his eyes. "Or they just need everyone with even remote experience in alien communication." "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" Mara asked quietly, leaning closer. "Rushing into an interstellar war with a species we've never even seen?" Jonas considered this. "I keep thinking about Earth history. The genocides that happened because no one intervened quickly enough or at all. Rwanda, Armenia, the Second Holocaust." He shook his head. "I don't know if this is right, but doing nothing while millions die, that's definitely wrong." Their conversation ended as senior officers began filing onto the bridge. Admiral Singh arrived last, taking his position at the command chair with quiet authority. He surveyed the bridge crew, his dark eyes missing nothing. "Status report," he ordered. "All ships report ready for Hawking transition, Admiral," responded the tactical officer. "Fleet formation is optimal. Engineering confirms all 3 H5 drives are at full capacity," added the chief engineer. "Medical teams standing by for post-jump recovery," the chief medical officer reported. Singh nodded. "Communications." Mara straightened. "All channels open and clear, sir. Quantum entanglement links established with all 50 ships." "Very good." Singh turned to the navigation officer. "Begin countdown for first jump. Destination HD 85512. The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. On the main view screen, Earth slowly receded as the fleet moved to safe jump distance. Mara's fingers hovered over her console, ready to broadcast Singh's orders to the entire fleet. "Hawking drive activation in 30 seconds, announced the navigation officer. Singh's voice was calm. "Broadcast fleet-wide brace for transition." Mara relayed the command, feeling her own heart hammering against her ribs. No one really knew what Hawking transition felt like with the new H5 drives. The simulations had been inconclusive, with test pilots reporting everything from mild discomfort to vivid hallucinations. 15 seconds. Around the bridge, officers secured themselves in specialized restraints designed to minimize transition trauma. 10 seconds. Mara closed her eyes briefly, sending a silent prayer to whatever forces might be listening. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Transition initiated. Reality fractured. Mara felt her consciousness separate into fragments each, experiencing a different quantum possibility. In one, she remained on the bridge watching as space itself folded around the fleet. In another, she saw her atoms disassemble and scatter across light years. In yet another, she witnessed the birth and death of stars in the space between moments. The ship groaned around the metal, and composites stressed beyond their intended tolerances. A high-pitched whine built from somewhere deep within the Leviathan's heart, the Hawking drives forcing open a pathway through space-time. And then, with a sensation like being snapped back into her own body, after falling from a great height, Mara returned to a singular reality. Alarms blared across the bridge. Emergency lighting cast everything in harsh red shadows. Several officers retched into emergency receptacles. Mara's own stomach lurched dangerously, and she tasted copper as blood trickled from her nose. "Status report," Singh demanded, seemingly the least affected by the transition. "Jump successful," the navigation officer reported shakily. "We've covered approximately 10 light-years. All 50 ships present and accounted for. Minimal structural damage reported throughout the fleet," added the tactical officer. "Well, within acceptable parameters." Singh turned to Dr. Glass, who looked pale but composed. Your assessment, Doctor? The H5 drives performed excellently, Glaz replied. Core temperature within expected range. We can begin cool-down procedures for the second jump within 8 hours. Make it 6, Singh ordered. Medical report on crew status. The chief medical officer frowned at her data. Transition sickness throughout the fleet, but no fatalities. I recommend at least 12 hours before the next jump to allow for full recovery. We don't have 12 hours, Singh said firmly. The Zaylis might not have 6, but that's all I can give you. Treat the worst cases first and prepare everyone for another transition. As the bridge crew returned to their duties, Mara wiped the blood from her face with a tissue. The taste of it lingered metallic and real, a reminder of what their bodies were enduring. 2 more jumps to go. She wondered how many of them would remain functional by the time they reached the Zali system. Between the first and second jumps, Mara found herself summoned to a conference room adjacent to the bridge. Inside, she discovered Admiral Singh, Dr. Elena Moreau, the fleet's chief xenolinguist, and a holographic projection of the latest Zales transmission. Lieutenant Kincaid. Singh acknowledged her entrance. Dr. Moreau tells me you've made some progress with the Zales language structure. Mara straightened. Yes, sir. I noticed patterns in their mathematical expressions that suggest a trinary logic base rather than our binary. I've been adapting our translation algorithms accordingly. Dr. Moreau nodded approvingly. Lieutenant Kincaid has natural talent for xenolinguistics. She's identifying nuances that our specialized systems missed. The Admiral gestured to the hologram. Then perhaps you can help us with this latest message. It came through before our first jump, but the translation has been problematic. Mara approached the shifting crystalline structures of the alien language. While the initial SOS had been deliberately encoded with Earth mathematics as a foundation, this new message appeared to be in the Zales' native communication form, complex patterns of light and geometric relationships rather than discrete words. They're using spatial relationships as grammar, Mara observed, studying the hologram from different angles. The meaning changes depending on the viewer's perspective. She circled the projection, noting how the patterns shifted subtly as she moved. It's not just a message, it's a warning. They're telling us about Qatari fleet positions, I think, and something about their weapons. Her fingers traced patterns in the air, following the alien geometry. The Qatari have something called the closest translation would be planet cracker, a weapon that can shatter a world's crust. Singh's expression hardened. Can you determine if they've used it yet? Mara continued studying the projection. I don't think so. The Zalis are still transmitting from their homeworld, but the message conveys urgency, as if deployment is imminent. Then our timetable just got even tighter, Singh said grimly. We'll make the second jump in 4 hours, not 6. Admiral, Dr. Moreau objected. The medical team strongly advises. I'm aware of their recommendations, Dr. Singh interrupted. But I'm also aware that we're racing against genocide. 4 hours. Make sure your teams are ready. After the Admiral departed, Dr. Moreau sighed heavily. He's pushing the fleet to its breaking point. And himself, Mara added, noticing the fatigue etched in Singh's face during their brief interaction. Moreau studied Mara with newfound interest. You're the one who first detected the signal, aren't you, at Outpost Omega? Mara nodded. How does it feel to be responsible for humanity's first interstellar war? The question hit Mara like a physical blow. That's not I was just doing my job. Of course, Moreau said not unkindly. We all are. But history pivots on such moments. One person doing their job making one decision that changes everything. She gestured to the alien message still rotating above the table. Keep working on this. We'll need every advantage when we arrive. The second jump was worse than the first. Mara emerged from the Hawking transition with blood, not just from her nose, but her ears and eyes as well. Around the bridge, several officers had lost consciousness entirely. The ship's structural integrity alarms wailed continuously as stressed metal contracted from the dimensional strain. Admiral Singh remained standing, though his uniform was stained with his own blood. Report, he ordered, voice hoarse. Second jump completed. The navigation officer managed hands trembling as they moved across the console. We've covered another 12 light years. 8 vessels reporting severe drive instability. The carrier Dauntless has suffered a containment breach in their secondary Hawking chamber. Casualties: 23 dead across the fleet, hundreds injured. Medical teams overwhelmed. Singh absorbed this with a tight nod. Status of the Dauntless: Captain reports they've isolated the breach. They can still make the final jump, but recommend extended cooldown period. How long to the Zales system now? Approximately 8 light years, sir. One more jump. Singh took a deep breath, clearly, weighing the condition of his fleet against the urgency of their mission. 12 hours to the final jump. Not a minute more. Get damage control teams to the Dauntless and any other ship reporting critical systems failure. I want every vessel operational for our arrival. Mara spent the 12-hour interlude in the medical bay, receiving treatment for transition trauma and helping translate a new burst of communication from the Zales. This message was more fragmented, suggesting damage to their transmission capabilities, but its content was clear enough. The Qatari had begun the final phase of their assault. The planet cracker weapon was being moved into position. When she reported this to Admiral Singh in his private ready room, she found him studying tactical projections with Major Lena Ortiz, commander of the fleet's marine contingent. "Are you certain of this translation?" Singh asked, looking up from the holographic display. "Yes, sir. The signature energy pattern they're describing matches what we know of neutron destabilization technology. The Qatari have developed it into a planetary-scale weapon." Major Ortiz, a compact woman with close-cropped hair and the hard eyes of a career soldier, frowned. "So, we're jumping into a system where the enemy has a superweapon already deployed. That seems like suicide, Admiral." "Unfortunately, Major, that appears to be our only option," Singh replied. "Lieutenant Kincaid, what else can you tell us about the Qatari fleet disposition?" Mara projected the translated data from her tablet. "They have approximately 80 warships surrounding the Zales homeworld. Most appear to be smaller vessels, corvette to destroyer class based on the Zales descriptions. But there are 5 larger ships they call shardbreakers. These seem to be dreadnought equivalents, and one of them carries the planet cracker. And our arrival point. The Zales have provided coordinates for a jump emergence that should position us behind the largest shardbreaker. They believe a decisive strike against this vessel could disrupt the Qatari command structure." Ortiz studied the projections with a professional eye. "Classic decapitation strategy. Take out their flagship, create confusion in the ranks." "That will be your objective, Major," Singh said. "Prepare your best boarding team. Once we emerge from the jump, you'll deploy directly to the Qatari command ship. Boarding action against an unknown alien species with unknown internal ship configuration." Ortiz raised an eyebrow. "I've had easier assignments, sir." "The Zales have provided what intelligence they have on Qatari ship layouts." Mara offered, forwarding additional files to Ortiz's tablet. "Their atmospheric requirements are similar to ours, though they prefer higher oxygen content and lower gravity. Their internal security systems are primarily automated drones, rather than personnel." "Small favors," Ortiz muttered, scanning the information. "We'll be ready, Admiral. My team can deploy within 90 seconds of jump completion." "Good." Singh turned back to Mara. "Are we maintaining continuous communication with the Zales?" "Intermittent only, sir. Their transmission capability appears to be degrading. Their last message indicated they're under heavy bombardment." Singh's expression remained controlled, but Mara saw the tension in his shoulders. "Then we proceed with the final jump as scheduled. Inform Dr. Glaz to begin Hawking drive preparation." As Mara turned to leave, Singh added, "Lieutenant, I want you on the bridge during our arrival. Your ability to interpret Zales' communications in real time may prove crucial." "Yes, sir." Major Ortiz caught up with Mara in the corridor outside. "A word, Lieutenant." Mara paused. "Of course, Major." "These Qatari, do we know anything about their combat capabilities, personal weapons tactics, vulnerabilities. The Zales describe them as physically fragile, but technologically advanced. They rely heavily on automated systems and drone warriors. Evolved in low gravity, so their skeletal structure is less dense than ours. However, they compensate with powered exoskeletons in combat situations. Ortiz processed this with a nod. Anything else? Psychological weaknesses, cultural taboos we could exploit? Mara considered the question carefully. The Zalis mentioned that the Qatari have an almost religious reverence for their technology. They believe mechanical perfection is the ultimate evolution of life. They consider their ships sacred space, which might explain their genocidal attitude toward other species. They view biological life as inherently chaotic and polluting. So they're fanatics, Ortiz concluded grimly. Perfect. She turned to go, then hesitated. Lieutenant, how are you holding up? The question surprised Mara. I'm functional major. That's not what I asked. Ortiz's hard expression softened slightly. You went from monitoring static at the edge of our solar system to being thrust into humanity's first interstellar conflict. That's one hell of a career change. Mara managed a small smile. I'm still processing it, to be honest. But I believe in what we're doing. Good. Belief helps. Ortiz straightened her uniform. Get some rest before the final jump. It's likely to be even worse than the last two, and we'll need you clear-headed when we arrive. The third Hawking transition nearly tore the fleet apart. Mara experienced it as an eternity of fractured consciousness, her very atoms screaming as they were stretched across light years. When reality reassembled itself, the Leviathan's bridge was in chaos. Consoles sparked with electrical fires as emergency suppressant systems activated. Structural integrity alarms blared from every section of the massive ship. 3 officers lay unmoving at their stations. Admiral Singh, blood streaming from his eyes and nose, bellowed for status reports through the smoke and confusion. Final jump complete, gasped the navigation officer. We've arrived in the HD 8552 system. Fleet status, Singh demanded. The tactical display flickered erratically before stabilizing. 47 ships present and accounted for, reported the tactical officer. 3 vessels missing the destroyer Okinawa, and carriers Dauntless and Shenzhen. Quantum entanglement communications offline. Conventional comms. Functioning at 60% capacity, sir. Singh wiped blood from his face. Get me a visual of the system. Where are the Zalis? Where are the Qatari? The main view screen cleared to reveal a breathtaking sight. A blue-green world suspended in space, partially obscured by a ring of angular crystalline vessels that glittered in the light of the system's sun. Surrounding this inner ring was a second formation, the unmistakable silhouettes of Earth's warships, now taking defensive positions. We've emerged exactly as planned, Mara announced, studying her readouts. The Zali's coordinates were precise. We're behind the Qatari formation bracketing their command vessels. Any response from the enemy? Singh asked. They appear to be reorienting their fleet to address our arrival, the tactical officer reported. No weapons fire yet. I think we surprised them. Singh straightened in his command chair. Good. Open a channel to the Qatari flagship. Mara worked her console. Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies the Zales indicated the Qatari use. Attention Qatari vessels. Singh began his voice steady, despite the blood still seeping from his nose. This is Admiral Raj Singh of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are responding to a distress call from the Zalis people. We demand that you cease your assault on their planet immediately and withdraw your forces from this system. We have no quarrel with your species, but we will not allow genocide to continue while we have the power to prevent it. For several tense moments, there was no response. Then the view screen flickered, resolving into the image of a being unlike anything Mara had ever seen. The Qatari commander appeared almost crystalline itself, a thin, translucent body housed within an elaborate exoskeleton of gleaming metal and pulsing energy conduits. Its face was an intricate arrangement of faceted surfaces, with no obvious eyes or mouth, yet somehow conveying an impression of cold disdain. When it spoke, the sound came as a series of high-pitched clicks and whistles that the ship's translation system struggled to interpret. Deathworlders. It finally rendered in a synthetic approximation of human speech. The Zales were more desperate than we calculated to summon primitive biological entities from such a distant world. Singh's expression remained impassive. Our technological status is irrelevant to this discussion. We are here to prevent the extinction of a sentient species. Stand down your weapons and withdraw. The Qatari commander's body shimmered with patterns of light that the translators couldn't interpret. Biological imperatives cloud your reasoning. The Zales, like all chaotic life forms, are a contaminant in the perfect order of the cosmos. Their eradication is not genocide, but purification. That's not a philosophy we share, Singh replied coldly. I'll say it one final time, withdraw your forces. You have no authority here, Deathworlder. Your vessels show signs of severe transition damage. You are outnumbered and outmatched. Depart now, and we may permit your species to exist in your own system for the present cycle. Remain, and you will share the Zali's fate. Singh turned to his tactical officer, speaking clearly enough for the open channel to transmit his words. Initiate Nova Protocol against the Qatari flagship cluster. Nova Protocol confirmed. The tactical officer responded, entering a complex series of commands. Targeting solution locked. Mara felt her breath catch. The Nova Protocol was theoretical, a quantum destabilization weapon, developed after the Deathworld Wars, but never tested on a living target. In simulations, it created a localized rupture in space-time that would effectively erase matter from existence. Warning received and dismissed. The Qatari commander stated, its synthetic voice emotionless. Your primitive threats mean nothing. The planet cracker is now activating. Witness the purification of... Admiral Singh cut the transmission with a gesture. Execute Nova. A soundless flash engulfed the view screen. Where a cluster of 10 Qatari vessels had been empty space, remained no debris, no radiation signature, simply absence. Stunned silence gripped the bridge. Target eliminated. The tactical officer finally reported, voice barely above a whisper. Nova field dissipated within parameters. No collateral damage to remaining fleet elements. Singh turned to communications. Broadcast to all Qatari vessels that was 10% of our Nova capability. The next strike will target your remaining command ships. You have 5 minutes to begin withdrawal from this system. As the message transmitted, he switched to the fleet channel. All ships maintain position. Marine deployment units prepare for boarding operations. Target the vessel designated as Shardbreaker 1. That's their planet cracker platform. Major Ortiz's voice came through clearly. Boarding teams ready for deployment, Admiral. Drop pods primed and targeted. Singh leaned forward in his chair. Begin deployment on my mark. We need to neutralize that planet cracker before they can activate it. He turned to Mara. Lieutenant, can you establish communication with the Zales? Mara worked her console, trying various frequency combinations based on their earlier communications. I'm getting fragmented responses, sir. Their orbital communication platforms appear heavily damaged, but ground stations are responding. Tell them help has arrived. Tell them to hold on. On the tactical display, the Qatari fleet had broken its orbital formation ships, moving in seemingly random patterns that nevertheless suggested confusion in their command structure. The disappearance of 10 vessels without trace had clearly shocked them. Qatari fleet is repositioning, reported the tactical officer. Some vessels appear to be preparing jump coordinates. They may be withdrawing. And the Shardbreaker, Singh asked. Still in weapons range of the planet. Energy readings increasing, they may be accelerating their timeline. Singh's decision was immediate. Major Ortiz, deploy now. All ships provide covering fire for the drop pods. Target Qatari interceptors. Only we need that Shardbreaker intact until the boarding team can disable the planet cracker. Acknowledged, came Ortiz's terse reply. Deploying in 3, 2, 1. Marines away. Mara watched on the tactical display as dozens of tiny signatures detached from Earth ships, accelerating toward the massive Qatari vessel at the center of their formation. The drop pods, essentially heavily armored missiles with humans inside, were a testament to the insanity of Marine Corps doctrine. When faced with an enemy vessel, put boots directly on its decks. Qatari defensive systems came alive, energy weapons lancing out to intercept the incoming pods. Earth's fleet responded with a coordinated barrage, drawing fire away from the vulnerable Marines. Incoming transmission from the Qatari, Mara reported. There, the view screen erupted with the Qatari commander's crystalline visage patterns pulsing rapidly across its surface, in what Mara interpreted as agitation or rage. Barbarians, the synthetic voice translated. You deploy biological entities to contaminate our sacred vessel. This desecration will not stand. Singh stood facing the alien commander squarely. Call it desecration if you want. We call it preventing genocide. Your planet cracker will be disabled one way or another. The choice remains yours: withdraw, or we will remove your ability to threaten any world ever again. You understand nothing, Deathworlder, the Qatari hissed. The purification is inevitable. If not by our instruments, then by others. The galaxy will not tolerate the chaos of biological existence indefinitely. Perhaps not, Singh conceded. But today this planet lives. These people survive. That's all that matters to us right now. The Qatari commander's response was cut short by a proximity alert. 5 Qatari destroyers had broken formation, accelerating directly toward the Leviathan. Incoming hostiles, the tactical officer shouted. They're on a collision course. Evasive maneuvers, Singh ordered calmly. All batteries target those destroyers. Nova protocol authorized if they breach our defensive perimeter. The Leviathan shuddered as its massive engines roared to life, narrowly avoiding the first Qatari destroyer. Earth's weapon systems responded with devastating precision, tearing through the crystalline hull of the alien vessel. 2 more destroyers succumbed to similar fates, but the remaining pair continued their kamikaze run toward Earth's flagship. They're not going to miss, the tactical officer warned. Impact in 15 seconds. Singh's next command was interrupted by a blinding flash from outside. Where the 2 Qatari destroyers had been, only scattered debris remained. Through the cloud of wreckage emerged 3 Earth vessels, the missing destroyer Okinawa and carriers, Dauntless and Shenzhen, their hulls scorched and damaged, but weapon systems clearly operational. Admiral, Mara called out, barely containing her excitement. We're receiving a transmission from the Dauntless. Put it through, Singh ordered, a rare smile crossing his face. Captain Amelia Rodriguez's image appeared on screen, her uniform torn and bloodied, but her expression triumphant. Sorry we're late to the party, Admiral. The final jump scattered us to the system's edge. Took us a while to get the drives back online and calculate your position. Your timing is impeccable as always, Captain, Singh replied. Status of your vessels? Operational enough to fight, sir. The Dauntless lost 1/3 of her complement during the jump, and our Hawking drive is completely fried, but weapons and conventional propulsion are functional. Position your ships to support the Marine boarding operation. Major Ortiz's team is attempting to neutralize the Qatari superweapon. Acknowledged. Moving to support now. On the tactical display, Mara could see that several Marine drop pods had successfully attached to the Shardbreaker's hull. Others had been destroyed in transit, their signatures winking out as Qatari point defense systems found their marks. 15 pods confirmed docked with target, reported the tactical officer. Marines are cutting entry points. Major Lena Ortiz hated drop pod insertions with a passion that bordered on religious. As the reinforced capsule slammed into the hull of the Qatari vessel, the impact jarring every bone in her body, despite the shock absorption gel surrounding her, she renewed her silent vow to request a transfer to any unit that kept its boots firmly planted on solid ground if she survived this mission. Status check, she barked into her helmet comm as the pod's automatic systems began cutting through the alien hull. Alpha Team All Green, reported her executive officer, Lieutenant Commander James Reese. Bravo Team 2 wounded, but combat effective, came the voice of Sergeant Maria Diaz. Charlie Team All Green, added Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka. 3 teams, 36 Marines total, had successfully reached the target. Given that they'd started with 60, Ortiz considered that a qualified success. Now came the hard part, fighting through an alien vessel with unknown internal geography to locate and disable a superweapon that could crack a planet open like an egg. Remember the mission parameters, Ortiz said, as the cutting torch completed its circle. Primary objective is to reach the Planet Cracker Control Center and disable it. Secondary objective is to capture the ship's bridge if possible. Rules of engagement are clear. The Qatari are hostile combatants, but we need at least some of them alive for questioning. Use lethal force as necessary, but attempt capture when feasible. The cut section of hull fell inward with a clang that reverberated through the pod. Breach successful. Deploy, deploy, deploy. Ortiz was first through the hole, her powered armor sensors immediately cataloging the alien environment. The atmosphere registered as breathable, but oxygen-rich. Gravity at approximately 0.7 Earth standard. The corridor beyond the breach point was angular and crystalline with surfaces that seemed to shift subtly as she watched some form of dynamic architecture, or perhaps living structure. Clear left, she announced, sweeping her assault rifle along the corridor. Clear right, added Reese, taking position beside her. As the rest of Alpha Team filed through the breach, Ortiz received confirmation that Bravo and Charlie teams had successfully entered at their designated points. According to the Zali's intelligence, the Planet Cracker Control Center should be near the ship's core, approximately 500 meters from Alpha Team's entry point. Move out, she ordered. Standard leapfrog pattern. Watch for automated defenses. They had advanced barely 50 meters when the first resistance appeared, hovering drones that emerged from recessed panels in the crystalline walls. Shaped like inverted pyramids, the drones emitted pulses of energy that the Marines' armor identified as plasma-based weapons. Contact front, Ortiz called, dropping to one knee and squeezing off a burst from her rifle. The hypervelocity rounds shattered the first drone, sending crystalline fragments cascading to the floor. The corridor erupted in a firefight, Marines ducking behind angular protrusions in the walls as they exchanged fire with the increasingly numerous drones. Their armor's energy shielding flared blue with each hit, holding but gradually depleting. Push through, Ortiz commanded. We can't get bogged down here. Marine armor had been designed with one principle in mind: overwhelming physical power. While Qatari technology clearly outmatched Earth's in many areas, the simple application of kinetic force proved remarkably effective. Marines charged forward, physically smashing drones aside when ammunition couldn't penetrate their shields. They forced their way through 3 more defensive choke points, losing 2 Marines to concentrated drone fire before reaching what appeared to be a major junction in the ship's internal transportation network. Bravo Team report position, Ortiz called as Alpha Team secured the junction. We've reached what looks like an engine control room, Sergeant Diaz responded. Heavy resistance. 4 casualties so far, but we're holding. Charlie Team. We've located what appears to be the main power distribution node, Lieutenant Tanaka reported. Currently engaged with both drones and Qatari personnel. The aliens are not what we expected, Major. Elaborate. Ortiz demanded, signaling her team to advance down the corridor that, according to Zali's intelligence, should lead toward the ship's core. They're integrated with their technology, Tanaka explained between bursts of gunfire audible over the comm. Not just wearing exoskeletons physically connected to them. When we damage the tech, they appear to experience actual pain, and their internal atmosphere is laced with what our sensors identify as nanomachines. Some kind of technological symbiosis. Ortiz processed this as Alpha Team encountered another wave of defensive drones. Understood. If you can secure that power node, See if you can disrupt their systems from there. We'll continue toward the primary objective." The journey to the ship's core became progressively more difficult as the Qatari defenses adapted to the human invaders. New drone variants appeared, some employing gravity manipulation that made the Marines' armor feel tonnage-heavy, others using sonic weapons that penetrated helmets with nauseating efficiency. After what felt like hours, but was likely only 20 minutes of sustained combat, Alpha Team reached a massive doorway that hummed with energy. "This matches the Zayli's description of the Weapon Control Center," Ortiz announced. "Prepare breaching charges." As her demolition specialist moved forward, Ortiz's comm crackled with an incoming transmission from the Leviathan. "Major, be advised," came Admiral Singh's voice. "Sensors indicate the planet cracker is powering up. Estimated time to firing capability is less than 5 minutes. Whatever you're going to do it fast." "Acknowledged." Ortiz turned to her team. "Change of plans. No time for subtlety." She gestured to the Marine carrying their heaviest weapon, a shoulder-mounted mass driver designed for anti-vehicle use. "Kowalski, make us a door." The Marine grinned behind his visor. "With pleasure, Major." The mass driver unleashed a projectile that accelerated to hypersonic velocity in the space of 5 meters, striking the Qatari door with enough force to shatter it into 1,000 glittering fragments. Beyond lay the control center, a vast dome-shaped chamber filled with crystalline platforms on which Qatari operators stood physically connected to their consoles by tendrils of technology that linked directly to their translucent bodies. At the center of the chamber loomed a pulsing sphere of energy, suspended within a lattice of what appeared to be liquid metal, the planet cracker itself. "Take control of that chamber," Ortiz ordered, charging through the breach with her rifle raised. "Neutralize resistance, but try to keep the tech intact." The Qatari responded with shocking speed, defensive systems activating throughout the chamber. Energy beams lanced from multiple points, catching one Marine squarely in the chest and overloading his armor's shields in an instant. He fell armor smoking. The remaining Marines deployed in practiced formation, using their superior physical strength to close with the Qatari operators. Up close, the aliens proved even stranger than Tanaka had described. Their bodies were partially transparent internal structures, visible as crystalline networks rather than organic systems. Where human organs would be complex technological components pulsed with light and energy. "They're cyborgs," Ortiz realized aloud. "Or something beyond that." A Qatari commander, distinguished by the complexity of its exoskeleton and the number of technological connections to its body, stepped forward to confront Ortiz directly. It spoke in the same high-pitched clicks and whistles they had heard on the bridge, but without a translation system, the meaning was lost. Ortiz had no time for diplomacy. She leveled her rifle at the pulsing energy sphere. "Tell your people to shut that weapon down, or we destroy it and possibly this entire ship in the process." The Qatari commander seemed to understand the threat, its body pulsing, with rapidly changing patterns of light. It made a gesture toward the other operators who hesitated, but then began disconnecting from their stations. "Major," called one of her Marines, "the energy readings are still climbing. They're not shutting it down." Ortiz whirled back to the Qatari commander, who emanated what she could only interpret as smug satisfaction. It had been stalling for time. "All teams," she barked into her comm, "target the central sphere. All available firepower now." The Marines opened fire simultaneously, projectile and energy weapons converging on the planet cracker's core. The Qatari commander lunged toward Ortiz's technological tendrils, extending from its exoskeleton like whips. She ducked under the attack, brought her rifle up and fired a sustained burst directly into what she hoped was a vital area of the alien's body. The crystalline structure shattered fragments spraying across the chamber as the creature collapsed. Around them, the ship began to shudder violently. "Energy surge detected," shouted one of her Marines. "The whole system's going critical." Ortiz made an instant decision. "All teams fall back to extraction points immediately. The mission is accomplished. Repeat, planet cracker neutralized. Now we get the hell out of here." As Alpha Team began their fighting retreat through the corridors they had cleared, Ortiz received an urgent communication from the Leviathan. Major sensors confirm the planet Cracker is no longer targeting the Zales world, Admiral Singh reported. But that vessel is experiencing a cascade reaction in its power core. You have approximately 10 minutes before catastrophic failure. Understood, Admiral. Beginning extraction now. Request close support from any available dropships. Already inbound, Major. Well done. The Marines battled their way back through the ship now, in full emergency status. Alarm systems wailed in alien harmonics, and defensive drones seemed to operate with reduced efficiency, as if the central coordination had been disrupted. 8 minutes later, with the Qatari vessel's systems approaching critical failure, the last of Ortiz's Marines were extracted via dropship, escaping the doomed Shardbreaker as its structure began to buckle. From the relative safety of the dropship's viewport, Ortiz watched as the massive alien vessel fractured along crystalline fault lines, energy discharges arcing between the separating segments. When the final detonation came, it was almost beautiful, a silent flowering of light that briefly outshone the system's sun before collapsing into darkness. Shardbreaker destroyed, Ortiz reported to the Leviathan. Planet Cracker neutralized. Mission accomplished. Throughout the system, the remaining Qatari vessels began jumping away, their command structure broken, their superweapon destroyed, and their religious certainty shaken by the unexpected arrival of the Deathworlders. On the Leviathan's bridge, Admiral Singh watched the tactical display as the last Qatari signatures vanished. Only then did he allow himself to sink back into his command chair, the full weight of the past days suddenly pressing down on him. Status of the Zales planet, he asked. Mara, still at her communication station, checked the incoming data. Multiple ground stations responding, sir. They've suffered heavy damage from orbital bombardment, but population centers are largely intact. Initial casualty estimates in the millions, but the majority of their civilization has survived. Singh knotted the muscles in his jaw tight. Open a channel to their primary leadership. Tell them Earth stands with them now. As Mara worked to establish the connection, Singh turned to the tactical officer. Fleet status. 3 ships lost completely during the engagement. 12 more with critical damage requiring immediate attention. Casualty reports still coming in, but preliminary estimate is 700 dead, twice that wounded. Singh absorbed this with a grim nod. 1,000 casualties to save a civilization. The mathematics of war never became easier, no matter how necessary the conflict. Admiral, Mara called. I've established connection with the Zales leadership. They're requesting visual communication. Put it on screen, Singh ordered, straightening in his chair, despite his exhaustion. The view screen flickered, then resolved into an image unlike anything they had expected. Where the Qatari had been crystalline and angular, the Zales were fluid and organic, their bodies resembling something between mammals and cephalopods with multiple tentacular limbs and large expressive eyes, set in elongated heads. Their skin shifted color as they moved, patterns rippling across its surface in what seemed to be a form of emotional expression. The central figure, distinguished by elaborate markings around its eyes, spoke in a melodious language that the ship's systems struggled briefly to translate. People of Earth, it finally rendered in English. I am Elder Levon, speaking for the Zales Council. We lack words to express our gratitude for your intervention. When we sent our call into the dark, we dared not hope for such a response. Admiral Singh inclined his head respectfully. Elder Levon, I am Admiral Raj Singh of Earth's Unified Defense Force. We regret we could not arrive sooner to prevent the losses your people have suffered. You came across 30 light-years to aid strangers? Levon, responded, the colors on its skin shifting to deep blues and purples that the translation system tagged as indicators of profound emotion. Such an action transcends ordinary alliance or obligation. The Qatari would have succeeded in their purification without your fleet's arrival. The Qatari have withdrawn from your system, but we cannot guarantee they won't return, Singh said frankly. We would like to establish a more permanent relationship with your people, both to help with immediate recovery efforts and to discuss mutual defense arrangements for the future. Levon's skin rippled with what the translators identified as agreement. "We welcome this proposal with all hearts. The Xales have much to offer in exchange for Earth's protection. Our biotechnology and spatial engineering may complement your impressive military developments." "I propose an immediate conference between our leadership," Singh suggested. "With your permission, I will send a diplomatic delegation to your surface, along with engineering teams to assist with rebuilding your orbital defenses." "Granted with gratitude, Admiral." Levon's colors shifted to a warm amber. "I must ask in your language, what is the meaning of Deathworlders?" The Qatari used this term with fear. Singh smiled slightly. "It refers to species that evolved on planets with high gravity and challenging conditions. Environments that produce stronger, more resilient life forms. Earth is such a world. Then, perhaps it is fitting that Deathworlders should become life-bringers," Levon observed. "Today, you have rewritten our understanding of the cosmos. We are not alone against the void." In the weeks that followed, Earth established a permanent presence in the Xales system. Military engineers worked alongside Xales scientists to rebuild their orbital defense network, incorporating Earth technologies that would give warning of any Qatari return. Marine units trained local defense forces, while diplomatic teams established the frameworks for a formal alliance. Mara Kincaid found herself appointed as the chief liaison for communications development, creating a standardized translation protocol that would allow humans and Xales to communicate without machine intermediaries. Working closely with Elder Levon's technical advisors, she developed a deeper understanding of the profound philosophical differences between the two species. "Your people evolved as predators," observed Thaliv, a Xales linguist, as they collaborated on a unified lexicon. "You think in terms of action and reaction, attack and defense. We evolved as symbiotes, our ancient ancestors, forming cooperative relationships with other species. We think in terms of networks and balance." "And yet both approaches produced spacefaring civilizations," Mara noted. "Perhaps there's no single right evolutionary path." The Qatari would disagree. Thaliv's skin darkened. They believe their technological integration is the only valid future for intelligent life. Mara considered this. "Do you think they'll return?" "Eventually. Their certainty is absolute. But now we have allies who can match their determination with equal force." On the Leviathan, now functioning as the temporary headquarters for the Earth Expeditionary Force, Admiral Singh hosted a formal reception for the Xales Council members able to travel to orbit. The ship's main hangar had been converted into a meeting space that accommodated both species' environmental preferences. "The Qatari have retreated to their core systems," Singh explained to the assembled leaders. "But our scouts report they're already rebuilding their fleet. This wasn't just a territorial dispute or resource conflict. Their motivations are ideological. They will continue their purification campaign against biological life forms." Elder Levon body, undulating gently in the reduced gravity environment, signaled understanding. "We have identified at least 3 other civilizations within 50 light-years who may be targeted next. Species the Qatari would consider untidy." "Then perhaps we should warn them," Singh suggested. "Or better yet, invite them to join our alliance." "A coalition of biological species," Levon mused, skin flickering with thoughtful patterns. "Standing together against forced technological homogeneity. A balance to the Qatari vision." "Exactly," Singh gestured to a holographic display of nearby star systems. "With your permission, we will begin reaching out to these civilizations. Earth is prepared to extend our protection to any peaceful species threatened by genocide." After the formal meetings concluded, Singh found himself alone on the Leviathan's observation deck, staring out at the distant blue-green sphere of the Xales homeworld. Major Ortiz joined him there, now recovered from her injuries during the boarding action. "Quite a view, isn't it?" she remarked, following his gaze. A world we've never set foot on, orbiting a star our ancestors could barely see, populated by beings we didn't know existed 3 months ago. Singh shook his head slightly. And yet we've committed our forces to protecting it, as if it were Earth itself. Having second thoughts, Admiral. Reflective ones. He turned to face her. Humanity spent centuries wondering if we were alone in the universe. Now we know we're not, and our first major action was warfare. Defense, Ortiz corrected firmly. There's a difference. True enough, Singh sighed. But I wonder what this means for our future. We've positioned ourselves as guardians now, the Deathworlders who protect the defenseless. Is that such a bad role? Perhaps not. But it comes with tremendous responsibility. He gestured toward the stars, visible beyond the Zayli's world. There could be thousands of civilizations out there, Major. Each with their own history, their own conflicts. We can't police a galaxy. No, Ortiz agreed. But we can answer when someone calls for help. That's what we did here. Before Singh could respond, Lieutenant Mara Kincaid entered the observation deck, her expression urgent. Admiral, we've detected another signal. Similar pattern to the original Zayla's SOS, but from a different source. Much more distant, approximately 70 light-years from Earth. Singh straightened, fatigue falling away. Another civilization under attack. The translation is preliminary, but yes, it appears to be a distress call. They identify the aggressors as the Qatari. Ortiz's expression hardened. They're already targeting another world. Singh was silent for a moment, weighing the implications. Earth had committed significant resources to the Zali's defense. The fleet had suffered damage and casualties. The political will for another intervention might not exist. Yet the alternative was to ignore a plea for help, to allow another genocide, while they had the power to prevent it. Begin analysis of the signal, he ordered. I'll inform the UN Galactic Council immediately. And contact Dr. Glaz. I want to know if the Hawking drives can handle 70 light-years. As Mara hurried to execute his orders, Singh turned back to the viewport. Beyond the Zaylis world, beyond the reach of unaided human vision, another civilization was fighting for survival, sending desperate messages into the void. The Deathworlders protect the defenseless, he murmured, recalling his message to the galaxy after the Qatari retreat. It had been intended as a statement of principle. Now, it was becoming a promise. Prepare Fleet Doom for deployment, he said to Ortiz. As soon as we have coordinates, we answer the call. Out among the stars, humanity's warships stood ready not as conquerors, but as guardians. The Deathworlders had found their purpose in the vastness of space.